But that wasn't the real story. The real story is that Antifa and BLM showed up, and naturally, violence ensued. This is the way that it usually works. Usually, what happens here is that there is some sort of Trump rally, some sort of Trump event, and then people from BLM and Antifa show up, and then confrontation naturally ensues. Some of these confrontations are from sort of the most aggressive members of the Trump crowd and BLM Antifa, and sometimes it's just BLM and Antifa beating the hell out of innocent people, like people who are not confrontational in any way. Here was some of the videos that were happening. You can see that there's this guy who's getting in confrontations with members of Antifa and BLM. He's confronting a bunch of people, and he's hit in the back of the head and knocked to the ground. And they steal his cell phone as well, people kicking him while he's down. So all sorts of wonderful things happening in Washington, D.C. There's a man walking, literally just walking with his MAGA hat, people jumping at him, people assaulting him, him just kind of standing there while people crowd around him to do violence to him. Very classy stuff happening in Washington, D.C. People were arrested. Some 20 people were arrested. Apparently, one person was stabbed in Washington, D.C. Also, some Trump folks were eating at a restaurant in Washington, D.C., and they didn't get the memo. You're not allowed to eat at a restaurant in Washington, D.C. unless you pay the tax to BLM. And so people started throwing fireworks at people at the restaurant. So that was solid stuff. You can see here people just weren't up, and there they go. Somebody at BLM and Antifa just throwing fireworks at people inside a restaurant, which is delightful. That's good stuff happening here. Don't worry, guys. It's Trump's crowd that's violent. Trump's people are the violent people. This is what we've been told by the media. We've been told that it's Trump's people who are the violent ones, as opposed to, BLM and Antifa showing up. So where was Captain Healing and Unity? Seriously, where was Captain Healing and Unity? Joe Biden has spent the entire campaign avoiding condemning BLM, despite the fact that dozens of BLM quote-unquote protests have broken out into riots. He spent the entire campaign completely ignoring the fact that Antifa is a violent group, instead suggesting, it's more of like a philosophy, like a generalized philosophy, which is a really cheap way of getting out of having to condemn the most radical members of your base. But radicalism is the theme among Democrats, right? The real battle right now is not happening between the right and the left. The real battle is supposedly happening inside the Democratic Party. I've been suggesting that there is no battle, that a lot of what's happening inside the Democratic Party right now is a shadow battle, that basically the only battle is whether Joe Biden and company can keep a lid on the simmering pot of discontent that is the Democratic base, or whether eventually they're just hijacked by that base. And you can see it happening in real time. I don't think that Joe Biden has the passion to actually contain that. I think there's a pressure cooker, the Democratic Party. And I think that Joe Biden and others have assumed that if you turn up the temperature on the pressure cooker, well, all that's going to do is cook the meat thoroughly. But eventually what ends up happening is the pressure cooker blows. And I think that pressure cooker is not likely to remain in stasis for very long. I hope you enjoyed that clip from The Ben Shapiro Show. If you did, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you stay up to date on all of our future content.